Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Financial Friday. We are very grateful to have you today. I am the Financial Education and Community Outreach Ambassador for the Credit Union, and I am grateful to be with you today. And we will be speaking about the 5 W's of giving an allowance. So thank you so much for joining us. So why should you give your child an allowance? We'll start there. Why is because we need to help our children learn to budget. No matter how young or old our children might be, budgeting is something that we all need to understand, and being able to understand our needs versus our wants in regards to our budget is crucial. And by having an allowance, that allows your child to think through, what do they have? And is this something that they need to have? Do they want to have it? And can they actually afford having it? So that's the first part to think about with a budget. So why? It's to teach your children to budget. So what is an allowance? For some folks, an allowance is tied towards doing chores. Okay. Some families do not tie chores towards an allowance. And really that's kind of a personal choice for your family and your thoughts on it. In some families, they say that no matter whether or not I give you an allowance, there are things that you need to do around the house to contribute. You're a member of this family. We all do things. And so by not tying them to an allowance to the chores, that just says we're all responsible for doing these things. Now, for some, you say, it really motivates your children to get these things done. For some of us, we may have children that will say, well, fine, I'm just not doing it. Don't give me that $1 for that particular task this week. So it doesn't always work for every child. It really just depends on your family and what works for you. But whether or not the what of an allowance being tied towards chores or being tied, just to giving it to them in a particular time frame, that's really up to you and your family what works best. So how do you give this to your child? How much do you give to them? That really depends on the age and stage of your child, okay? So I think sometimes sharing a personal experience can really make a difference. So I'm gonna share what's worked for my family. We started giving my oldest an allowance at age 4. 3, she was interested in money. 4, she became really interested, was very cognizant of when we went somewhere, when we could really go places, about the fact that we were spending money, and she wanted to be able to spend money as well. Now at that age, to really get her started with an allowance, we started with giving her 4 quarters a week, okay? And we did it for 4 quarters for a particular reason, because we wanted her to understand how to split her money when it came to budgeting and things like that. So we gave her 4 quarters, and 1 quarter was designated to go into her savings. I need you to be quiet right now. You should be working on your school, okay? 1 quarter was to go in her savings, and for her, that was the piggy bank, and she would accumulate enough that she would then bring it to the credit union to deposit. The 2nd quarter was to go in her share jar, and that was to donate, because charitable giving is something important. We all have different causes that mean something to us. It might be a religious institution. It might be a local nonprofit. It might be a national nonprofit. So for everyone, that's different, but designating a quarter to go into that particular share jar was really important as well. And then that left her the other half of her allowance to spend however she chose. Okay, so that's kind of how we started it with her. She got into that habit. Now, granted, 50 cents a week, $2 a month isn't a whole lot to be able to spend. And as she got older, we realized let's kind of step that up a little bit. And so then we changed it to being, she got $1 per year. Now, as a 5-year-old, $5 gave her a little bit more to work with. Okay. She still did, we kind of talked about how to break it up between the save, share, and then the spending. If you've ever had a child participate in one of our financial education classes or virtual story times, this is something we talk to them a lot about, because all of us need to think about our budgets in that regard: saving, sharing, and spending. Because if we're not saving first, we're never going to do it. And even with charitable giving, if it's not part of your budget, you're just not going to do it. And then you've got the rest for your various spending, personal spending, home, all those kinds of things. So as she's gotten older, she's, gotten into this habit of saving, sharing, and spending, and she's really good about allocating it. And so now we're in the habit of saying, we're giving $1 per year. At some point, maybe that's not quite enough of an allowance. Maybe it's just right. Some of it you just kind of have to ebb and flow and see. And it also depends on your family situation of what can you personally afford to give your child. You don't want giving an allowance to be something that's financially crippling. So just being mindful of that. But the hope is that you're giving them enough that they have the money that they need to spend for doing the things that they want to do. For a 6-year-old getting $6 a month, she's putting $1 in savings, $1 in her share jar, and then she has $4 to spend each week. And over the course of the month, that's $16. It's a decent amount of money for a 6-year-old. It gives her enough to be able to buy something. And if she wants to save up her money, she's really able to do that and then do something of value with it. She was on a vacation, realized she had money that she could spend on buying some souvenirs and things like that because she'd been able to save up a good enough amount of money. When do you do this? When should you give the allowance? We've talked about the age part of it, but when in the course of a day, a week, a month, should you give your child an allowance? And some of that just depends on the age, again, and stage of your child. A younger child, weekly is probably better because waiting is really hard. But as our children get older, progressively getting to the point of getting their allowance bi-weekly or even monthly is really great, because this is also getting them to think in terms of a job. Because at some point, hopefully we'll have children that go into the workforce and are receiving a paycheck. Not all jobs pay weekly. I'm not sure of many that pay weekly. And so most of us are getting paid bi-weekly. It used to be that teachers got paid monthly. And so you really had to think about how to budget your money over the course of a month. And so by giving our children an allowance on a bi-weekly or monthly basis, that's helping them to learn that aspect of budgeting in the same way that they would with a job. So we've talked about who needs an allowance, the what, the whys, the hows, and the whens. So we've covered all of our 5 W's of an allowance. So who should get this? Our children. Why? To help them learn budgeting. When? You decide how often to give them an allowance, whether it's weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. All of that kind of thing. So all of the kind of the nuts and bolts are really a personal family decision, and you have to make that choice for yourself. But I hope that you have found this to be helpful for you and your family, and we hope you can join us again for another Financial Friday. You can find us each week here on Facebook Live at 9:30. And we will see you again next Friday, where we'll have a financial update in regards to mortgages. Hope to see you then. Take care.